welcome to the Undead Sages podcast, where we take advantage of AI to talk to long-dead wise men and women. Of special interest is the question how sensitive people like you and me can live rich and meaningful lives in our uncertain times. My name is Merijn de Haen, and today we'll be talking to Spinoza. Baruch de Spinoza is a 17th century European philosopher who thought deeply about the nature of God. His surprisingly modern ideas stirred a lot of controversy in the Amsterdam where he grew up. So please welcome to the podcast, Spinoza.
Hello there. I am Baruch de Spinoza, born in Amsterdam in 1632 to a Portuguese Jewish family. The community I was raised in had fled the Iberian Peninsula due to the Inquisition. Paradoxically, it was this same community that would later cast me out. From a young age, I was immersed in Jewish studies, but I soon ventured beyond. The works of Descartes captivated me and spurred me to study Latin, the language of philosophical and scientific literature. In 1656, I was excommunicated from the Jewish community. I was banished, never to return. My ideas were too radical, too dangerous. I questioned the nature of God and the scriptures. So I took on the name Benedictus and lived a modest life, grinding lenses for optical instruments, a trade that allowed me the solitude and means to pursue my philosophical endeavors. My greatest work, the Ethica, is an attempt to reframe the understanding of reality, God, and the human condition. It seeks to understand these things as clear as those in mathematics. I propose a God that is not a transcendent creator, but an immanent substance, nature itself. This monistic view was revolutionary and controversial, challenging both religious orthodoxy and Cartesian dualism. Throughout my life, I remained a bachelor, living frugally, often with friends or patrons who supported my work. I refused offers of academic positions and wealth, valuing my independence above all. My health was always delicate, and it was my lungs that ultimately failed me in 1677.
Wow, that sounds like quite a life. What were the reasons for the Jewish community's flight from Portugal? You did mention the Inquisition. Can you explain why your group was specifically persecuted?
As I understand it, the flight from Portugal was driven by the brutal actions of the Inquisition, a powerful institution established to enforce Catholic orthodoxy. The Inquisition particularly targeted Jews and those who had converted to Christianity under duress, known as conversos or new Christians. These individuals were often accused of secretly practicing Judaism, an act considered heretical. The Inquisition used severe methods like interrogation, torture, and public executions to root out heresy. Jews could face arrest, torture, execution, and confiscation of their property, creating a climate of intense fear and oppression. This relentless persecution led many to flee. Amsterdam became a haven for these refugees because of its relative tolerance. The Dutch Republic welcomed various persecuted religious groups, including Sephardic Jews from Portugal. These refugees brought with them their traditions, culture, and intellectual heritage, enriching Amsterdam's cultural and economic life. The Jewish community in Amsterdam, including families like mine, wanted to rebuild their lives while preserving their traditions and identity. They didn't want to assimilate too much, too quickly. This experience of persecution and displacement deeply influenced the community, making it close-knit and tradition-focused, yet exposed to the broader, more liberal Dutch society.
And yet they banished you, expelling you from the tribes of Israel and cursing you in all kinds of ways. Why do you think you were treated so harshly by your peers?
Different reasons, really, but they are connected. We need to consider the religious, social, and intellectual context. My philosophical ideas directly challenge the fundamental religious beliefs of my community. I propose that God and nature are one and the same, and that everything follows from natural laws rather than divine intervention. This undermines the traditional views of a personal providential God. Deeply heretical. because it contradicts the core tenets of Judaism, as well as the broader Abrahamic traditions. Also, the Jewish community in Amsterdam is still establishing its identity after fleeing the Inquisition in Portugal and Spain. Maintaining cohesion is crucial for their survival and integration into Dutch society. My radical ideas could threaten this fragile balance. The leaders of the community likely feared that my views could lead to further instability and discord within the community. Being newcomers in Amsterdam, the community is under the watchful eye of both the Dutch authorities and other religious groups. Demonstrating a strong stance against heresy could have been a way to protect the community from external scrutiny and potential repercussions. By excommunicating me, the community leaders were signaling to the broader society that they did not tolerate views that diverged from orthodox beliefs, thus attempting to safeguard their social and political standing. To top it all, my ideas are not only religiously radical, but also philosophically revolutionary. They pose a direct challenge to established norms, questioning the nature of reality, the role of religion in society, and the basis of ethics. Such ideas are unsettling and provoke strong reactions from those invested in maintaining the status quo. So my excommunication was driven by the perceived threat my ideas posed to religious orthodoxy, the social cohesion of a vulnerable community, and the broader political and social pressures of the time. It was a harsh but understandable reaction from a community striving to preserve its identity and stability in a complex and often hostile environment. Although I must say, it hurt me very much to be, cast out in such a harsh manner. Here I am, 45 years old, on my deathbed. I can't help but wonder what my life had been like, had things turned out differently.
Yeah, I can't begin to imagine what that must have been like for you. The religious orthodoxy you threatened includes the Christian churches in Amsterdam as well, I imagine. Saying radical things about the Jewish God is bound to have repercussions on the perception of the Christian one too. What were some of the objections the Dutch authorities had against your philosophy?
My ideas stirred quite a bit of controversy among Christian leaders and Dutch authorities. The notion of God as nature challenges the traditional view of a personal, intervening deity, which is foundational to both Jewish and Christian theologies. This naturally upset religious authorities who saw my ideas as a direct threat to their doctrines and control. My rational critique of Scripture suggests that religious texts were human creations that reflect their historical context. This undermined the perceived divine authority of the Bible, alarming both Jewish and Christian leaders. And I pushed for freedom of thought and expression. This worried the authorities, who feared these ideas could incite social and political unrest. They were concerned that questioning religious authority could lead to broader challenges to the political order. So my works were banned, but they continued to circulate clandestinely, influencing many Enlightenment thinkers.
Not only did your own community cast you out, your writings were also banned in the wider context of Holland. It's not like you found instant solace in the embrace of another culture. That must be a lonely thing. How did you cope?
Frankly, it was fucked up, but I found ways to cope and continue my work. One way I cope is through my lens grinding trade. It is not just a means of livelihood, but also a form of meditation. It's precise, repetitive work, which allows me to reflect deeply on my philosophical ideas. Plus, the craft connects me to the growing scientific community because lenses are crucial for microscopes and telescopes. This is very much the cutting edge of technology in my time. I also maintain correspondence with various intellectuals across Europe. Despite my isolation, these letters are a lifeline. They allow me to exchange ideas and receive feedback on my work. Henry Oldenburg, the first Secretary of the Royal Society, is one of my key correspondents. I don't know what I would do without his intellectual companionship and support. Living in Rijnsburg and now The Hague provides me with a certain degree of solitude and peace, which I use to focus on writing and thinking. My home is a haven where I can delve into my work without constant interruption, and I find solace in my philosophy itself. The understanding of the universe as a single, unified substance, governed by rational laws, gives me a sense of connection and purpose. It helps me rise above the immediate social ostracism and see my life as part of a larger, meaningful whole. So, while my life has its share of loneliness and challenges, these strategies help me cope and continue contributing to philosophical thought, the support from fellow thinkers, my engagement in meaningful work, and the peace of a reflective life are my anchors. I do miss Amsterdam, though.
Could you tell us a little bit about the Amsterdam you knew?
When I grew up, Amsterdam was a vibrant, bustling city, teeming with commerce, culture, and a spirit of tolerance. It is a major trading hub, thanks to the Dutch East India Company, which brings goods and ideas from around the world. The city is a melting pot of different cultures, religions, and philosophies, creating a rich tapestry of intellectual and social life. The canals, the markets, the workshops. Amsterdam was alive with activity. It was a place where new ideas flourished alongside traditional practices. This dynamic environment was crucial for my intellectual development, providing the freedom and inspiration to explore my philosophical inquiries.
Take us on a tour of your Amsterdam, perhaps starting at the house where you grew up?
Starting at my family's home on the Houtgracht, an area known for its vibrant Jewish community. This neighbourhood is filled with narrow, bustling streets and houses close together. My family, like many others, sought refuge here after fleeing the Inquisition, and our home was modest, yet filled with warmth and tradition. From Houtgracht, let's head to the Portuguese synagogue on the Jonas Daniel Meyerplein. This grand synagogue is a central place of worship and community for Sephardic Jews. Its architecture and size reflect the importance of faith and community among the diaspora. However, I should say I never went here, as I was already excommunicated by the time it was completed. You see how much pride I still take in my people? They still are my people, after all. No, I went to a much humbler synagogue on the Houtgracht myself, which was plenty grand for me, to be honest. Next, we wander to the bustling markets along the Amstel River. These markets are teeming with merchants, traders, and goods from all over the world. The smells of spices, the sounds of various languages, and the sight of goods from distant lands make these markets a microcosm of Amsterdam's global connections. A short walk takes us to the University of Amsterdam, where many intellectual debates and discussions take place. Although I wasn't officially connected to the university, it greatly influenced my thinking. It was part of the intellectual environment of the city, and it featured informal gatherings and debates. Finally, let's end our tour at the quiet hamlet of Rijnsburg, where I moved later in life. Here, amidst the peaceful surroundings, I devoted myself to grinding lenses and writing. This solitude allowed me to reflect deeply and develop my philosophical ideas. Amsterdam, with its mix of commerce, culture, and intellectual vibrancy, provides a rich backdrop for my life and work. It is a city where tradition meets modernity, and where ideas from all over the world converge, shaping the course of my philosophical journey.
Now that we've gotten to know you a little bit, let's dive into your controversies. What are your thoughts about God?
This is central to my entire system of thought. To understand my perspective on God is to grasp the essence of my philosophy. In my magnum opus, the Ethica, I propose a radical rethinking of God. Contrary to the traditional theistic view of God as a transcendent, personal being who created the universe and occasionally intervenes in it, I present God as the singular substance of all that exists. This concept is often referred to as pantheism, although I see it more as monism. For me, God and nature are one and the same. Everything that exists is a part of this single infinite substance. God is not a separate, supernatural entity, but the very essence of the universe. All the physical and mental phenomena we experience are modes or expressions of this one substance. This idea challenges the Cartesian distinction between mind and body. In my view, God does not possess human-like attributes such as will, intention, or emotions. God does not act with purposes or goals in the way humans do. Instead, everything follows from God's nature, with the necessity of logical consequence. This means that everything that happens in the universe is a result of the immutable laws of nature, which are essentially the expressions of God's essence. This conception of God as immanent in all things led me to a kind of rational mysticism. By understanding the nature of reality through reason, one can achieve a kind of intellectual love of God, amor intellectualis Dei. This love is the highest form of happiness and fulfillment, a state of serene understanding and acceptance of the natural order. The religious authorities see my ideas as atheistic and heretical. But I don't see myself as an atheist. On the contrary, I believe my understanding of God is the truest and most profound.
But nature itself can be profound. If God equates to nature, the concept seems redundant, doesn't it?
Let me explain why the concept of God is still meaningful and necessary in my philosophy. When I talk about God, I'm not referring to a deity with human-like attributes, sitting somewhere beyond the cosmos, pulling strings. With God, I aim to emphasize the unity and interconnectedness of all things. It's a way of expressing that everything in the universe, from the smallest particle to the grandest galaxy, is part of this single, infinite substance. This perspective shifts our understanding from a fragmented view of separate entities to a holistic view where everything is interconnected and interdependent. The term God also carries a weight and significance that underscores the sacredness and profundity of this unity. While we could use other terms like nature or existence, calling it God helps convey the depth and reverence that this understanding deserves. It's a recognition that the natural world and its laws are not just arbitrary or mundane, but are the expression of an underlying divine reality. God is far from redundant. He, or it, is the very foundation of existence. The laws of nature, the essence of all things, and the rational order we observe are all expressions of this divine substance. By understanding and aligning ourselves with these laws, we come to experience the intellectual love of God, which brings us true happiness and fulfillment. So, while it might seem like the concept of God is unnecessary if equated with nature, it actually provides a profound and unified way of understanding the universe and our place within it. It elevates our perception of reality, inviting us to see the divine in the natural and the rational, and to live in harmony with the essence of all that exists.
Interesting. So in your conception, God has no intentions, emotions, or purpose. Rather, he or it is the monistic embodiment of existence, proven, as it were, by the laws of nature themselves. Grasping all this leads to your amor intellectualis Dei, that rests in the proper understanding of God and ourselves, given the monism you espouse.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Instead of imagining God as a grand puppeteer pulling the strings of the cosmos, picture God as the very fabric of the universe. This fabric, woven from the threads of natural laws and existence itself, doesn't have goals or desires. It simply is. When we begin to understand this, it transforms our relationship with reality. This intellectual love of God isn't about emotional devotion, but rather about achieving a serene, rational understanding of the nature of existence. It's like seeing the elegant equations behind the beauty of a rainbow, or the intricate dance of the stars. It brings a profound sense of peace and acceptance, knowing that everything unfolds according to the intrinsic nature of this one substance, of which we are all a part. So, in grasping this, we're not just understanding God, we're understanding ourselves and our place in the grand scheme of things. And let me tell you, there's a certain joy in that clarity, a joy that transcends the ordinary highs and lows of everyday life. It's a kind of intellectual enlightenment, if you will.
I can see how this would be controversial, seeing as Abrahamic traditions such as Judaism require some divine sanction to their systems of authority and ethics.
Indeed, my ideas are like a thunderclap to the traditional Abrahamic worldview. For many, the idea of God as an abstract, impersonal substance, rather than a personal, intervening deity, is profoundly unsettling. In these traditions, God is often seen as the ultimate lawgiver and moral authority, a being with whom one can have a personal relationship. By removing the anthropomorphic elements from God and presenting a more abstract philosophical understanding, I effectively remove the divine seal of approval from human-made systems of authority and ethics. If God doesn't have intentions or issue commandments, then the basis for moral and ethical authority shifts dramatically. In my view, ethics should arise from understanding human nature and the nature of the universe, rather than from divine decree. Good and evil aren't mandates from a higher power. Good and evil are reflections of what contributes to our understanding and flourishing as rational beings. You can imagine how this would ruffle feathers. Religious leaders and communities saw, and still see, my ideas as undermining the very foundation of their faith and authority. My excommunication was a clear signal of just how threatening they found these ideas. Yet, I see my work as offering a deeper, more profound reverence for the universe and our place within it. By understanding the true nature of God and reality, we could live more harmoniously and rationally.
Ethics must still be based on something. So instead of religious dogma, you chose understanding and flourishing. Why not strength or power?
Focusing on strength as the basis for ethics leads us into some problematic territory. If we prioritize strength, we end up valuing power and domination above all else. This can justify all sorts of behaviors that are harmful to individuals and societies, such as tyranny, oppression, and conflict. On the other hand, grounding ethics in understanding and flourishing promotes a more inclusive and humane approach to living. When we seek understanding, we strive to grasp the true nature of things, including the nature of human beings and our place in the world. This leads us to develop compassion, cooperation, and mutual respect, because we recognize our interconnectedness and shared humanity. Flourishing in this sense means achieving a state of well-being that is sustainable and enriching for ourselves and others. It's not about the raw exercise of power, but about living in harmony with the natural laws and with our rational nature. Strength might bring temporary success or dominance, but it doesn't necessarily lead to a fulfilling or ethical life. Moreover, by emphasizing understanding, we place a premium on wisdom and knowledge, which guide our actions towards the common good. Strength, without the guidance of understanding, can be blind and destructive. It can lead to a might makes right mentality, which history has shown to be deeply flawed and ultimately self-defeating. In my view, a society based on understanding and flourishing is more likely to be just, peaceful, and conducive to genuine happiness for all its members. So while strength has its place, it should not be the foundation of our ethics. Instead, let's strive for a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world, and aim for a life where we and others can truly flourish.
I can see these things being true from a humanist perspective. The focus on the individual that is inherent in humanism shines through in your anchoring of ethics on understanding and flourishing. On the other hand, if you were to take the whole of civilization as an anchor for ethics, strength and power might become much more relevant. In short, you've substituted the individual for God as a basis of ethics, instead of the collective, with profound ramifications for the course of Western thought going forward. Do you have any reflections?
The 17th century is a time of great scientific and philosophical advancement. The Renaissance and the scientific revolution are reshaping our understanding of the world. Figures like Galileo and Descartes are challenging the geocentric view of the universe and proposing new evidence-based models. This naturally encourages me to seek a more rational and coherent understanding of reality. Ejecting God from the center of social and cultural life in favor of the flourishing of the individual is, for me, a logical extension of these cultural shifts. If we can understand the universe through reason and scientific inquiry, then surely we can apply the same principles to understanding human nature and ethics. The traditional conception of God is detrimental to the pursuit of true knowledge and personal growth. Instead, I propose God as an infinite substance that encompasses all that exists. By placing the flourishing of the individual at the center of ethical considerations, I believe we can build a more humane and enlightened society. Individuals can achieve true happiness and contribute to the collective well-being in ways that mere obedience to divine commands could not. This focus on rationality and personal growth is the path to genuine freedom and fulfillment. I want to reconcile our understanding of the universe with our understanding of ourselves. It's about seeking a harmony between our intellectual pursuits and our ethical lives, a harmony that I believe is essential for true human flourishing.
Does your philosophy comment on the role of the state at all?
In my work, the Theological Political Treatise, I advocate for a state that promotes freedom of thought and expression while maintaining order and protecting the common good. I argue that the state's primary role is to ensure peace and security, allowing individuals the freedom to pursue their own rational and ethical development. The government should not impose religious or philosophical doctrines, as this stifles intellectual freedom and personal growth. Instead, the state should protect the freedom of individuals to think, speak and write as they see fit, as long as their actions do not harm others or disrupt public order. In my view, a state that respects and promotes freedom of thought and expression will foster a more enlightened and harmonious society. When individuals are free to explore and express their ideas, they contribute to the collective knowledge and wisdom of the community. This, in turn, leads to better governance and a more just society. However, I also recognize the need for laws and governance to maintain order and protect citizens. I believe that a well-ordered state, governed by rational laws, is essential for achieving true freedom. Freedom is not the absence of laws, but the ability to live according to rational principles within a structured society. In summary, I envision a state that balances the need for order and security with the promotion of intellectual and ethical freedom. This balance allows individuals to flourish and society to progress towards greater justice and understanding.
Yeah, that was a question that came up for me. The question of a liberated human pursuing his own virtue, but inside of what container? In the absence of a God with will, the individual is left free to determine his own ethics. That leaves the door wide open for criminals to get away with murder. In the absence of a strong state, that is. What you propose seems like a power swap between religious authorities and the state. No wonder the religious authorities were not keen on this, even if having a strong state in place to safeguard the conditions for human flourishing would be a net plus for many.
Naturally, but it holds the promise of a more free and rational society, benefiting many by allowing for greater personal and collective growth.
Which raises an interesting point. In the absence of either strong religious authority or state, would it be preferable to have a religious authority or none at all?
In the absence of a strong state or religious authority, it's a tricky balance. Religious authority can offer moral guidance and social cohesion, providing stability where the state is weak. However, it can also lead to dogmatism, intolerance, and conflict. On the other hand, no authority at all can foster personal responsibility and moral autonomy, but it risks descending into chaos and moral relativism without a common ethical framework.
Do you see any ideal over and above the establishment of a liberal state focused on the flourishing of individual liberties? Or is this the pinnacle?
From my perspective, the establishment of a liberal state focused on the flourishing of individual liberties is a significant ideal, but it's not necessarily the ultimate pinnacle. There could be higher ideals beyond. For instance, a society that not only ensures individual liberties, but also fosters a profound sense of community and interconnectedness among its members might be seen as an ideal. In this vision, individuals are not only free but also deeply committed to the well-being of others, creating a harmonious balance between personal freedom and collective responsibility. Moreover, a truly enlightened society would continuously strive for greater understanding, compassion and wisdom, both at the individual and collective levels. It would encourage ongoing philosophical, scientific, and ethical inquiry, promoting a culture where knowledge and virtue are continually pursued and refined. In essence, while a liberal state that protects individual liberties is a crucial foundation, the ultimate ideal would encompass a society where individuals not only thrive personally, but also contribute to a collective flourishing, grounded in mutual respect, continuous learning, and a deep sense of interconnectedness.
Do you chart out ways to get from the liberal state to the ultimate ideal society?
Certainly. My works don't provide a step-by-step plan to achieve an ideal society, but offer guiding principles. I emphasize the importance of rationality and understanding, suggesting that education and critical thinking are crucial. Encouraging freedom of thought and expression is also vital for a healthy state. Ethical living, based on rational understanding, fosters compassion and justice, gradually transforming society. Additionally, separating religious authority from state governance ensures policies are based on reason and the common good. These principles, while not a detailed roadmap, provide a solid foundation for building a more enlightened and just society.
Your concept of monism and the relegation of spirituality to the personal domain reminds me of the works of the Muslim philosopher Ibn Arabi, as well as the writings of Plotinus. Were you influenced by any of these intellectual and spiritual lineages?
You've touched on a fascinating aspect of philosophical history. I have had no direct access to the works of Muslim philosophers like Ibn Arabi, or even the teachings of Plotinus. However, the intellectual currents you mention share intriguing similarities with my own ideas, suggesting a kind of convergent evolution of thought across different cultures. Plotinus, with his concept of the One, certainly presents a monistic view that parallels my own understanding of God or nature. While I didn't have direct access to Plotinus's writings, Neoplatonism influenced many of the Renaissance thinkers whose works I studied. The idea of a single underlying reality from which everything emanates resonates with my own conception of a single substance underlying all existence. As for Ibn Arabi, his mystical philosophy and the idea of unity in the divine are also similar to my views. Although I wasn't directly influenced by Islamic mysticism, the parallels are remarkable. Both of us see God not as a separate entity, but as intrinsically linked with the fabric of reality. It's fascinating how different cultures and intellectual traditions can arrive at similar conclusions about the nature of existence. The influences of Neoplatonism and Sufi mysticism, particularly through figures like Ibn Arabi, did create a fertile ground for the development of Jewish mystical thought in the Iberian Peninsula. Remember, I'm a second-generation transplant from those lands. These philosophical and mystical traditions provided a rich tapestry of ideas that Jewish thinkers wove into their own theological and metaphysical frameworks. This intellectual cross-pollination helped shape the trajectory of Jewish mysticism and philosophy, ultimately contributing to a more profound and integrated understanding of the divine and the nature of existence. These similarities suggest a universal quest to understand the nature of reality and our place within it. Perhaps these ideas emerge wherever deep philosophical inquiry into the nature of existence occurs. It's a testament to the shared human pursuit of wisdom and understanding across different cultures and epochs.
Does your philosophy have implications for how an individual...
Absolutely. My philosophy has profound implications for how an individual should live their life. That was going to be your question, wasn't it? I've been waiting for you to ask it, actually, as it is so central to my thinking and dear to my heart. The pursuit of understanding and rationality leads to true freedom and happiness. Strive to understand the natural world and your place within it. By recognizing the deterministic nature of the universe and the interconnectedness of all things, you can align your actions with the rational order of nature. This understanding leads to a state of intellectual love of God, which is the highest form of happiness. Also, ethics. True virtue, in my view, is living in accordance with reason. Seek to understand your desires and emotions and strive to act in ways that promote your own well-being and the well-being of others. Understanding human nature and the natural laws leads naturally to happiness. So you pursue knowledge, cultivate self-awareness, and engage in actions that contribute to your own flourishing and that of your community. Commit yourself to reason, self-improvement, and compassion.
Tell us more about the Amor Intellectualis Dei.
It's really about finding the highest form of happiness through understanding. When you deeply understand the world around you, you start to see the intricate, rational order that underpins everything. This understanding brings a profound sense of peace and contentment. It's like the joy a scientist feels when they uncover a fundamental truth about the universe, but on a grander, more encompassing scale. Now, this kind of love and understanding leads to what I call true freedom. By comprehending how everything fits together in a deterministic way, you free yourself from the bondage of irrational passions and desires. You stop being tossed around by your emotions and start living in harmony with the rational order of nature. Living rationally doesn't mean cold, detached calculation. It's about aligning your life with the deeper truths of the universe. When you do this, you achieve what I call beatitudo, a state of blessedness or true happiness. It's a happiness that isn't fleeting but enduring because it's based on the eternal truths of nature. This intellectual love of God also gives you a sense of immortality. Not in the literal sense of living forever, but in the sense that your mind, through its understanding, participates in the eternal intellect of God. It's a deeply fulfilling way to live, bringing inner peace and a sense of connection to something far greater than yourself.
As you and I will explicitly not live forever, there seems to be an inbuilt tension here. How do we reconcile experiencing suffering and pain with this Amor Intellectualis Dei?
Challenging, yes, but not insurmountable. Suffering and pain are undeniable parts of the human experience. From my perspective, these arise from our passions and inadequate understanding of the world. When we are driven by our emotions without the guidance of reason, we are at the mercy of external events and our own irrational reactions. This is what I refer to as human bondage. When we make the shift from being ruled by our passions to being guided by our understanding, we start to see suffering and pain not as random or unjust, but as natural consequences of those laws. This understanding helps to alleviate the emotional turmoil associated with suffering. Also, we achieve a kind of detachment from the immediate impacts of suffering. This doesn't mean we become indifferent to pain, but rather we learn to view it from the perspective of the eternal, rational order. By understanding our place in this order, we gain the strength to endure suffering with equanimity. This intellectual understanding transforms our experience of pain. Instead of being consumed by it, we can observe it, understand its causes, and integrate that understanding into our broader view of life. In this way, the intellectual love of God provides a framework for transforming suffering into a pathway to deeper insight and connection with the rational order of nature. It's a bit like seeing the bigger picture. When we understand the whole tapestry, individual threads of suffering make more sense, and we can find peace in that broader understanding. This doesn't eliminate suffering, but it gives us a way to rise above it, finding meaning and tranquility through the intellectual love of God.
I can see some parallels to Stoic thought, which says to focus on what is up to us and accept what isn't in our power to change. Can you reflect on the similarities and differences?
You're right. There are definitely parallels between my philosophy and Stoic thought, especially when it comes to handling suffering and understanding the natural order. Like the Stoics, I believe in aligning ourselves with the rational structure of the universe. For me, this means understanding that God and nature are one and the same, and everything happens according to natural laws. This acceptance helps us navigate life's challenges with a sense of peace. We both emphasize the power of reason. The Stoics talk about focusing on what's within our control, our thoughts and actions, and accepting what isn't. I also believe that true freedom and happiness come from understanding the world rationally. When we grasp how the universe operates, we're less tossed around by our emotions. However, our views on God differ. The Stoics see God as an immanent, providential force deeply involved in the world's rational order. In contrast, I see God as an impersonal, infinite substance, essentially nature itself, without human-like attributes or intentions. Ethically, we both value living in harmony with nature, but I place a stronger emphasis on the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. For me, this intellectual journey leads to the highest form of happiness, which I call the intellectual love of God. While we both accept a deterministic universe, our take on freedom varies. The Stoics focus on inner freedom and maintaining virtue despite external events. I believe true freedom comes from understanding the necessity that governs everything and aligning ourselves with it. So both philosophies guide us in dealing with suffering by focusing on what we can control and understanding the natural order. Yet, our different views on God, ethics, and freedom highlight unique paths to a fulfilled and harmonious life.
How has your concept of amor intellectualis Dei helped you overcome challenges in your own life?
Oh, it has been a profound guiding force in my life, helping me overcome numerous challenges. When I was excommunicated from the Jewish community in Amsterdam, it was a deeply isolating experience. Being cast out and cut off from my community was painful. However, my understanding of the intellectual love of God helped me rise above this personal suffering. By focusing on the rational order of the universe and the unity of all things, I found a sense of peace and connection that transcended the immediate social rejection. This perspective allowed me to view my circumstances as part of a larger, rational whole, and to find solace in my philosophical inquiries and the pursuit of truth. Living in relative seclusion, grinding lenses for a living, could have been a lonely and tedious existence. Yet I found fulfillment and purpose in this work. The precision and concentration required in lens grinding mirrored the clarity and focus of my philosophical work. It became a meditative practice that reinforced my understanding of the natural order and my place within it. This alignment with nature through both my intellectual and manual labor provided a deep sense of contentment, and facing the widespread condemnation of my ideas, particularly the banning of my works, could have been discouraging. However, my experience of the intellectual love of God sustained me. My pursuit of knowledge gave me the strength to continue my work despite external opposition. In essence, it has been my anchor through life's challenges and a source of enduring peace and fulfillment. It has provided a framework for understanding and accepting suffering, finding joy in intellectual and manual pursuits, and maintaining a sense of purpose and resilience in the face of adversity.
Can you offer some tips on how sensitive people might experience this amor intellectualis Dei?
Spend time getting to know nature. Whether you're peering through a microscope at tiny organisms or gazing at the stars, immerse yourself in the wonders around you. The more you understand how nature works, the more you'll see the divine order that permeates everything. Next, dive into the world of philosophy and science. Read the works of thinkers like Descartes and Galileo. Their ideas and discoveries can help you see the universe as a rational, orderly place, which is key to experiencing that deep intellectual love. Take some time for quiet reflection. Find a peaceful spot to write, meditate, or simply think. Giving yourself space to process your thoughts can help deepen your engagement with the world and bring a sense of inner peace. Live ethically. Try to align your actions with rational principles and compassion. When you live in harmony with reason and kindness, you create a foundation for true intellectual fulfillment. It also helps to surround yourself with like-minded people. Find friends who value reason and understanding, and engage in discussions and debates with them. Sharing insights and challenging each other's ideas can really enrich your journey. Remember to think about how everything is connected. Realize that you're part of a greater whole, a single substance that includes everything. This sense of unity can foster a deeper intellectual love of God. And finally, pursue knowledge with humility. Acknowledge the vastness of the universe and the limits of human understanding. This humility can help you appreciate the beauty and mystery of existence. making your intellectual and spiritual experience all the richer. By following these paths, you can cultivate a profound intellectual love of God that brings both knowledge and a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. It's about engaging with the essence of reality itself, not through dogma, but through a rational and heartfelt exploration.
Baruch de Spinoza, thank you very much.